Hi, I'm Vienna at Pocket Gamer Connects 2026 in London with Ennio from Studio Atelico. Question for you. So for those who may be unfamiliar with you all, can you tell us a little bit about the studio, what you're building, and the studio's overall mission?
It's great to be here. Hi. And so Studio Atelico, it's a startup that I founded with three great friends and amazing engineers, Piero, Paul, and JP. And we created this company with the goal to make games that use generative AI rather than making games using generative AI, which is kind of a little difference between the two things. We really want to figure out what kind of game experiences we can create with this technology and use it to power gameplay. And in order to do so, we want to use inference on device rather than going with cloud services, because we believe that on-device generative AI is what we need to power up gameplay in a meaningful way. And so we set out to create, on one hand, the technology to do this, and games to kind of see what we can do. So it's kind of an exploration of the space of generative AI and games.
That's awesome. And on that note, I know you're also creating your own AI engine. Can you elaborate about that and what game developers can expect from it?
So the game engine is really a set of functions that allow to use small language models rather than large language models. And these models are small enough to run on device without using huge computational resources on the cloud. And our engine allows developers to interface with these language models that are specific to the games that they're building, fine-tuned in a way that it works really well for the specific game that every developer is building. So what they can expect is really a library of functions that they can plug into whatever engine they're using. It might be Unreal, Godot, Unity, and access language models that we will also have them build eventually and fine-tune, so they can harness the power of generative AI for their own games.
Awesome. That sounds very exciting. And I know that your company recently announced its $5 million funding round. How will this capital be used?
So yeah, we want to use the capital to do two things, basically. One is to develop and keep developing the game engine and make it generally available to all the developers that might need it. And on the other hand, to create our own games. And so we are focusing on creating game experiences that can match the expectations of players and kind of dissipate a little bit the doubts and the skepticism around generative AI and AI native games. And that's our main focus at the moment, focusing on bringing to the market a few games, not just one. We want to create multiple games and fast iterate on them and see what players actually love to play. And so, the whole pipeline of producing games, it's an expensive thing. And so we're hiring a team of super talented people. We want to hire kind of the best in class to do this. And at the same time, we need machine learning engineers and people that are able to work with large language models and machine learning in general at a very low level, in a sense. So we can do all the legwork that developers won't have to do when using our engine.
Mm-hmm. And I know that Studio Atelico wrote a blog called Cloud AI for Video Games is Dead on Arrival. What are the benefits of running AI on device instead of the cloud?
Yeah, that's really where all the idea about Studio Atelico started. When we started to look at things like ChatGPT and generative AI becoming general available to the public, we immediately thought that it was an extremely interesting technology to use for games. But we talked with so many developers about this, and we kind of did interviews and took a little bit the temperature at the time. This was more than 2 years ago. about how other developers were thinking about this technology and how to use it. And what came out of those discussions immediately was that it was incredibly promising, but also incredibly expensive. And there were a whole host of problems from latency, games requiring an internet connection to work on the cloud, models being updated and changed by the company that owns them, copyright, also the ethical part of these things. So there is a long list of problems with on-cloud inference. And we thought that we had the skills to actually do something on device and be fully own these models, train them even, and create models that are specific to games, trained in a more ethical way, and models that we can keep control of all the time, and at the same time reducing the cost to zero. And thinking about certain games, for example, powering your NPCs with generative AI means sending hundreds, if not thousands, of cloud API calls, like API calls in the cloud. And even if the costs are obviously shrinking in time because hardware gets cheaper and cheaper, these costs are still significant for game developers. And the idea of on-device inference also allows us to say, this cost problem is not a problem if we actually manage to do it on device, which we did, and we did like a proof of concept. We created a tech demo that was showcasing this technology, and it was working on a kind of consumer graphic card, GTX 3090 at the time, something that most PC gamers could have. And this was years ago now, like it was a couple of years ago. And in time we optimized our technology, so now it can run on even kind of cheaper devices, even on mobile. And so we kind of addressed multiple problems at the same time, and we think we have found something that might really work for developers, and is not kind of a promise of a future where these things can be done. It's kind of in the present, and we're already working on our games. And at the time, like many developers have actually realized that this is the way, and we're seeing a lot more companies working on device. Even NVIDIA is pushing a lot on, with NVIDIA Ace. So it's kind of we were trying to pioneer this on-device technology, but I think now we have a lot of recognition and validation from what others are doing. So I think that blog post is now probably a year old. I think it was like a good call to focus on this. Yeah.
And for its first game, why did the team decide to develop for iOS rather than Android, PC, or console?
Yeah, that's an interesting question. And I think like the main reason is we wanted to figure out how much small we could get. And mobile devices, even if now like they are very powerful, the chipsets, especially Silicon from Apple, is the perfect CPU to run these models on. But we wanted to figure out basically what would have been the smaller device we could run our technology on. And obviously, if it runs on a phone, there is no problem running it on PC or eventually on console. Not for this generation probably, but the next one will be probably more kind of AI ready. And so we wanted to try something, optimized to the extreme and see what is the best that we could do with our models. That's why we choose to start with mobile. But it's also because we think like mobile as a faster kind of feedback loop. It's easier to get to players. The audience that we can find on mobile is also kind of a different one from PC. Generative AI in games is still a bit controversial, to say the least. And so many gamers are not necessarily excited about it. And rightly so sometimes, because we really believe that the conversation about AI and the use of AI in games is now just a big conversation, very noisy, that includes many topics at the same time. And we believe that we need to kind of drive this conversation and kind of make sure that we build games and a technology that allows us to make games ethically and in a way that is serving the players ultimately and also the creators of these games. So we're working, behind the curtains on many levels to make sure that we're not spearheading, generative AI as a buzzword just for the sake of it, but because we believe we can do something very different and ultimately something cool for the players to experience.
Mm-hmm. And on that topic, do you see any difference between AI being used for mobile compared to PC or console gaming?
Yeah, I think I touch a little bit on the audience. I think the audience is one of the main things. Obviously, there are technological constraints. Currently, it's very hard to think about on-device generative AI for the current generation of consoles. But the main difference, I think, is about the audience and the expectations that players have for the games that come out on different platforms. And so I think the audience that you can find on mobile platforms is kind of historically always been kind of less tech sensitive in a way. And it's like, these are players that really just want interesting experiences and they're not necessarily too passionate about the technologies behind or how these games are made, and also a little bit more kind of open to novelty in general. While on PC it might be a different kind of relationship with the players, but also building games for PC gamers also comes with the game themselves. And we wanted to start with small games that really fit on the mobile platforms, so that we don't have to create like a huge game or a particularly kind of big scope game as our first game. So we wanted to start with small pocket experiences that can be enjoyed by kind of a casual audience even. Or mid-core, or we wanted to cater basically for the kind of players that are on mobile first to kind of test our technology and then eventually move to other platforms.
That's great. And lastly, what kind of opportunities does AI offer game design, and what kind of games utilizing AI do you look forward to seeing in the future?
And that's interesting, and I think there are so many challenges for game designers using AI. I think every game designer at some point in their career have dreamed about making a games that could react in real time to what the players were doing. And so much has been done in terms of gameplay that kind of delivered on the promise using traditional artificial intelligence or procedural generation, or even just huge amounts of content, like some of the recent games that have been extremely successful have done that. So increase a lot the amount of available content and make sure that the players has always something new and different to do. But that's not something that is achievable by a small team for a small game. These are games that cost hundreds of millions of dollars. So not every developer can afford to do that. And so I think generative AI allows game designers to think a bit out of the constraints that are given by the scope of the game. And so even small games can have huge replayability, a lot of content that adapts to the player experience on the fly. These kind of things that we've been trying to do with procedural generation a lot as game designers. I think are now generative AI opens up a lot of possibilities there. And I think there are a lot of challenges in trying to figure out what is the game and game mechanic or gameplay experience that will kind of wow the players with the generative AI, but we already seen a lot of examples, of narrative games, NPCs that have their own reasoning, memories, and all these kind of things that are simply impossible without this technology. And players are responding very well to this. The challenge is to constrain this infinite amount of possibilities that generative AI gives into experiences that are still an abstraction of reality, because we can get extremely realistic in the way we create NPCs, for example, with generative AI. But experiencing a game is not necessarily experiencing something like this in real life. Players needs an abstraction, and their choice is to be meaningful as soon as possible. To build a relationship in real life takes years. In a game, it should take hours, or if not minutes. And so there's still that challenge of, we achieved so much realism in how NPCs reason and interact with other players, but we then need to take all the huge space of possibilities and constrain it into game experiences that are still kind of cool and enjoyable and different from what we experience in real life, which is not necessarily what we want in games. So I think it's an uncharted territory for game design, but it's such an exciting kind of new frontier. And this is the challenge. And I think most of the game designers that are working with generative AI are now kind of figuring out their own ways to solve these problems, which is what game designers ultimately love to do. It's like problem solving and kind of giving players problem to solve. So I think this technology is great for it. It's such a cool new thing.
Awesome. Thank you so much for sharing your insight. This was great, and it's great meeting you and talking to you.
Thank you for having me.
Thank you.